Hello everyone, this is Marco and welcome back to my channel. Finally, I've gotten back into making stuff. I've gotten all of the reviews out of the way. I just couldn't wait, my goodness. I apologize if it's just been reviews all this time, but now I am back. What better way to start the making videos again with a plastic surgery one. Last week, I did an in-depth review video of the Hammond collection Lost World Tiger Velociraptor, and to put it politely, that figure left a lot to be desired. And to put it bluntly, it's pretty much a piece of... So what's wrong with it? Well, to keep a long story short, they reused a lot of parts, even though this is a premium figure. Not. They reused the Velociraptor feet and tail. The body is from Velociraptor Blue, which means that the texturing is all incorrect. They reused the first Hammond collection Raptor hands, which are notoriously bad. Even though they tried to do a new head sculpt, it's not very accurate, and that bottom jaw is just, it's just horrendous. On top of everything, the paintwork is pretty bad too. The base color is the wrong shade of orange. They tried to cut corners here and there, and they didn't paint the counter shading all the way. And the patterns are all wrong, if not missing. If you want a much more in-depth analysis on the figure, I really recommend you go and watch that video that I mentioned earlier. So in terms of accuracy, they just went about it all wrong, and there's nothing right about this figure, unfortunately. So we'll be doing quite a lot of work with this one. In that video, I did a photo-edited version of it with all the corrections that it needs. We won't be able to fix everything, like the texture and the incorrect proportions, like the long thighs, the short-ish tail, and those really thick thighs that I cannot stand. Like, Mattel, come on, there's a time and place for thickness, and your Raptors is not it. You freaks. So the things we'll be fixing today, sculpt-wise, are the head, the hands, the feet, a little bit on the back, and we'll be adding that missing hip bone. And then we'll be fixing the paintwork too. So first things first, we're going to start with the head replacement parts. These are the brand new ones I sculpted, produced by Siratech. Link is in the description. Now the neck piece on these replacement parts were designed to fit on the Raptor Squad bodies. Although this Raptor does have a Raptor Squad body, it's got a different neck piece for some reason. But hey, they decided to redo the necks with a lot less articulation. So because this piece wasn't designed originally for this neck, it won't perfectly fit. Now Siratech and I have been looking into a fix or an alternative for this, but I know a lot of people have been using some hot glue. They just put a bit of hot glue in the hole and then placed it on and it fit. Or another fix is to squish the top of the peg to make it a bit wider and it fit perfectly. So if you want, you can get these replacement parts and just alter the peg a little bit. So what's new about these replacement parts? Well, they've got glass eyes. Well, they're not technically glass, but I can assure you these are a little bit better than Mattel's. As well as a slightly revised head sculpt. This one's inspired by the Jurassic Park 1 and 2 Raptors. They share the same exact head sculpt, so here we go. Since I'm trying to fit this new neck piece, I decided to try and alter it a little bit, file-wise. Like, we've been trying to make this peg hole fit both types of pegs. It's not easy, but we might be getting there. It's still not perfect, this is still a prototype, but in any case, those fixes I told you earlier will work just the same. But what if you don't want to use a replacement head? Well, I can show you how to fix the jaw a little bit. It's not going to be a perfect fix, but at least it will somewhat fix that horrible underbite. What you want to do is soften the plastic, so you can either grab a hairdryer or a little bowl of boiling water, dip the head in there for about a minute, and then press the jaw into shape, like this. And it kind of helps. Again, it's not perfect, but it's a good enough fix if you don't want to replace the head. But if you want to replace the head, just boil some water and put it in a bowl, or get a hairdryer and just heat up the head enough for it to get soft. Maybe about a minute or so inside of boiling water. Let it cool down just a little bit so you don't burn yourself, and then you should be able to pop the head straight off like this. Now make sure everything is nice and cool. Let's grab the new neck piece and let's try and put it on. Mind you, this is a prototype neck with a slightly different peg hole from the one that you might get. So I'm going to put a little dot of hot glue in the hole and then place it on. And it works just fine. If the hot glue trick doesn't work with you, you can always try and squish the peg on the top, and that might work best for you. I mean, if you're a customizer and you replace parts before, like the T-Rex head, that one's quite tricky. I'm sure you'll have no problems at all with this one. I mean, come on, we're customizers. We're good at trying to make things work, even if they shouldn't. Actually, funny story, I see a lot of people have bought the Spinosaurus replacement head, the one that was meant for the Camp Cretaceous figure, or Legacy figure, or whatever you want to call it, and they made it fit onto the Hammond Collection Spinosaurus, which obviously wasn't originally designed for the Hammond Collection Spinosaurus. So they did a heck of a lot of customizing and modifying just to be able to fit it on. And your guys' resourcefulness is incredible. I am so impressed by that. Well done. I mean, the customizing community has to be some of the most creative people out there. You guys are amazing. So I'm sure this raptor will just be a piece of cake for you. You might have noticed, okay, the neck piece is on now, but where's the rest of the head? Well, there's a reason for that. We're going to assemble the head pieces after the mouth parts are painted. When the parts are separate like this, it's much easier to paint. Instead of having to paint it when it's all assembled, that could get a little bit tricky. So let's have a look at those head pieces. You might have noticed that the top of the head is split into two parts. One of them contains the eye pieces. Now my copy here came with the eyes separate, so I have to stick them on. These are adhesive, so I just peeled them off of the back and then put them in the right position. Very, very carefully, I position them onto the eyepiece right here, which then inserts itself into the back of the head. You can add a tiny bit of glue on the sides just to make sure everything sticks together, and then we slide it in and it clicks in place. Siratech designed that mechanism, and my goodness, he is very, very good at this crap. So now we have the headpiece and the jaw piece. So let's go ahead and paint the inside of the mouth. I mixed this pink color right here by getting a bit of red and some white, tiny bit of yellow, and a little bit of black just to dull down the whole color a little bit, because otherwise it would have been a bit too bright. I went ahead and painted the roof of the mouth and the tongue and the buccal flaps. Oh, I almost forgot to say that I also painted the back of the throat, this bit right here on the neck. I gave everything a good couple of coats. Once everything is dry, we can move on and paint the teeth. I mixed some off-white with some white and a touch of yellow, and then I very carefully applied it to the teeth on the top jaw and on the bottom jaw too. And once I was happy, I decided it needs some shine, so let's add a little bit of gloss varnish. And there we go, the head is ready to be assembled. I grabbed a little bit of super glue and applied it onto the back of the headpiece like this. Then I got the bottom jaw, slid it into place, and then closed it all off by attaching the head. And that's it, the head replacement part is on. I think the next step will be the feet. These are the first replacement parts I ever sculpted. Well, second actually, I think the first ones are the T-Rex. And thankfully Mattel has not changed the peg, so we can just keep reusing these. I never thought I'd have to reuse these feet on a brand new 2025 figure. Because these are Velociraptor feet, they're slightly different. But even for a Velociraptor feet, they're not that accurate. But yeah, the size of the claws are all wrong. Premium. And the toes are weirdly close together. They're not spread apart enough. So we'll be using my old feet for this. So this is super easy. You just heat up the old feet with a hairdryer or boiling water. And after about a minute, they're soft enough for you to just pull off like this. You have to make sure everything's cooled down very well for the next step, because you grab the new feet and then push them on. Push them quite hard and they should just pop right on. If not, you can widen the hole just a little bit with a knife, just so it makes it a little bit easier to put them on. Now what next? Well, if I was made of patience, I would sand the whole figure down and score in some new texture to match the Lost World Raptor's skin texture, because this one's scaly and the Lost World Raptor's a bit more leathery looking. But I don't have the time or patience for that. So we're just gonna go ahead and add the hip bone next. Regardless of how many mods we're gonna do on this figure, the hips are still gonna be way too wide, unless you're crazy enough to want to fix that, which I am not. I am a bit crazy, but I'm not going that far. But I'm gonna swap its hands around, yes. What am I going to use? Well, I've got some extra spare rubber saw arms right here. If you're new here and you don't know what the rubber saws are, they are my own line of dinosaur figures. Yes, I designed my own. And I've got a brand new release imminent. I just need to finish them off a bit. The next live stream I'm going to do is me painting a bit of those figures. So you can stay tuned for that. So yeah, I'm going to use the hands from those figures. So what can you use instead? Well, pretty much anything. Anything's better than these old Hammond collection raptor arms. Or if you want, you can just extend that finger. That's all that's wrong with it, really. That finger's way too short. You can use some Milliput and cut a bit of the finger off and add a segment to it, or just extend it from the claw. So all I did really on mine was just cut the hands off of my spare rubber saw raptor hands and cut the hands off of the Hammond collection one and then just swap them over. Stick them on with some super glue and then sand a bit of the seams, and that's pretty much it. And what next? Well, I'm gonna add a pubic bone. And this is where our good old friend Milliput comes in handy. It's a 2-part epoxy putty. All you have to do is just open the box, grab 2 bits, mix them together thoroughly, and you have about an hour before it starts solidifying. If your skin's quite sensitive, I recommend you wear gloves because you might be allergic to this. Funnily enough, I'm not allergic to this, but I am allergic to latex gloves. So now it's all mixed in, I can grab a little bit and then put it in the middle of its legs like this. There aren't many pictures of the pubic bone online. Don't go on Google Images looking for pubic bones. So I used pictures of the maquettes made for the first and second film. Those are the best kind of reference images. After the screen used animatronics, of course. So after a bit of work, I made sure that the shape was correct, and this is what I ended up with. I used some water to smooth out the shape a bit, and then just used a little bit of a back of a paintbrush to give it a little bit of lines here and there, and then I used an old paintbrush to texture it. The Mattel figure doesn't have much texture under there, so I just tried to match it. And that's it with the pubic bone. There's not much else to do here, so I decided to add a little bit extra on the back right here. It wasn't curved enough, so I added a bit of a curve like this. Put some Milliput right there. Put the extra curviness in there, smoothed it all out with some water and the back of a paintbrush too, and then the tricky part came, which was trying to match the texture. I think I did an alright job. I used a toothpick, and that's it. You just wait until everything hardens up. And with that, we can move on to the painting. Now, I did something really silly. I was about to clean my paint palette or a plate. The way I do that is by boiling some water and then pouring it into the plate to help soften the dried up paint, so then I can later peel it off once it's cooled down. But I instead thought it was a great idea to pour boiling water on my fingers, and I got some burns. So I had to skip a whole day and resume the day after that. It was very silly of me, it hurt quite a bit, but I put some cream on and I've gotten back to work. But just be careful, everyone. Boiling water is no joke. So I started by mixing the brand new orange base color. The original Raptor was way too saturated and it was a bit too red. So I started from there, I made the color a bit more dull and added some more yellow too, just to get rid of that redness. And I painted the whole thing, making sure I went in all the nooks and crannies, in the articulation points and everything, with the exception of the teeth and the mouth, obviously. And the eyes too. Next, I did the counter shading. Now for this next bit, I apologize. I recorded with a cable in front of the camera, so if it's a bit blurry, I apologize for that. The counter shading on the original figure was way too pink, so this time we're mixing more of an off-white color. It's like a really bright gray mixed with some yellow. I applied it onto the belly and on the sides of the body, and blended it in with a wet paintbrush like this. I then did the same thing onto the bottom part of the tail, on the neck, on the jaw, a little bit on the top lip too, and on the back of the thighs and the calves, and a bit on the back of the arms as well. Once it was all dry, I added a little bit of watered down yellow in between the base color and the counter shading. So pretty much everywhere where I just put the counter shading on the edges, I would put a little bit of yellow. Then I mixed a slightly redder orange, not as red as the original color though, and painted it along the spine, on top of the head and the neck. And then I did the stripes. I tried to follow the reference material as close as I could. I used the Dinosaur Style Guide as reference, and I just painted all the stripes with a watered down black mixed with a little bit of red from the tip of the snout all the way down to the tip of the tail, including the top of the head, which was unpainted on the original figure. I know, Giro Effects, extra premium, and they didn't even bother painting the top of the head, when it's got some very unique markings up there. And then I painted the eye sockets with a dark red, which were barely painted but were the wrong color originally. I also added some orange stripes which are iconic on the lips. These were completely missing on the original figure. In my in-depth review video, I did mention that this figure would have looked a bit nicer with a little bit of a darker color spray painted on the feet and on the hands, just like the Velociraptor, so I kind of mimicked a little bit of that. I added a tiny bit of black to the orange color, which made this sort of dirty brown color. I put it on the feet, a bit on the legs too, on the hands, on the tip of the snout, and a bit on the spine too. We're getting close to finishing this, we just need to paint the claws. Yes, including the dew claw, and yes, that's all of the claws painted. I dry brushed a little bit of black onto the scoots on the feet and on the hands. I added a bit of a wash on the counter shading with that dirty brown. This was very subtle, but it helped tone down a bit of the brightness. And with everything dry, it's time to spray paint some lacquer, but before we do that, we need to protect the eyes. So I cut some almond shapes out of some masking tape and put it on the eyes to protect them. And then I sprayed everything with this matte sealant or lacquer. Once it was dry, I removed the protection from the eyes, and finally I got some gloss and glossed all the claws. And with that, the figure is done. And here it is in all of its glory. And I must say, I don't want to toot my own horn, but come on, this is so much better than what we got. We could have gotten something that was so much better. I really hope Mattel gets their crap together and actually releases a decent Raptor figure for once. And I really hope this tutorial helps you, achieve the Raptor figure that you've always wanted. Sure, it's not perfect, the hips are still way too wide, and the texture's all wrong, but hey, with a couple of changes here and there, it really does make a heck of a difference, doesn't it? Let me know what you think in the comment section down below. I really hope you enjoyed this video. Leave a like and subscribe if you enjoyed, and I'll catch you all in the next video. Stay safe. Bye bye.
I would like to give a massive thank you to all of my Patreons. Seriously guys, your support really does mean the world to me, as it helps me do what I love for you. You help me buy materials, and most of all, you give me a helping hand with improving the quality of the content of my videos. Even if it's just a small donation, every little helps.